Thank you, friends. Shabbat Shalom. Come together. I love this Torah portion, not for what it says, but for what it ultimately begs us to ask. Tavo, when you'll come. The reference here is into the land. They are about to cross the Jordan, and this portion talks about the offering of the first fruits and about tithing. There's an amazing section on inscribing giant stelae and placing them on the mountains. And then there is a kind of repetition of the Leviticus section on blessings and curses, with the curses taking 4 times as much space as the blessings. And we are presented with what is probably the first actual liturgy in the Torah for farmers. Because, friends, this was an agrarian nation, and that liturgy brings promise of prosperity to remembrance of history and to a reconnection to the patriarchs. From the first yields of the land there was to be an offering to God, but neither the amount nor the type is specified. By the time this book was written, it would have already been understood, and make no mistake, this liturgy would have been recited by each farmer when he brought the offering. The farmer would recite Deuteronomy 26:4, hand the offering to the priest, and then continue the recitation. And the prosperity of the farmer, reflected in the specimens of the first yield he brings to the sanctuary, would be connected to Abraham and Joseph, as he would recall how his forefathers were almost dying from starvation when they went down to Egypt, where they would be ultimately enslaved, and which becomes one of the threats in the subsequent series of curses he delivers. This transference from celebration of the first fruits to remembering and honoring history is a very powerful tool. Then there's a shift to a discussion about tithing. The word is derived from the Old English meaning a tenth, but it is mentioned in 3 of the 5 books of the Torah, and there was an organized 3-year cycle for tithing. The 3rd year was called the year of tithing, which was like a tax, where this parsha tells us 1/10 of the proceeds were to be given to the Levites, the strangers, the orphans, and the widows, those in service of God and the indigent. Underlying so many of the laws was a constant connection to humanity. From this tax, there was a prohibition from giving it to the dead, because in those days there were many offerings intended to nourish the spirits of the dead. And it was only from this particular donation that you couldn't partake of this, because this offering was consecrated for the needy and couldn't be made ritually impure by entering a burial site. With centralization of worship, this practice diminished altogether. Moses formally proclaims that both the people and God have made a commitment. The people will commit to Yahweh being their God, and they will keep his laws. And he will make them a renowned, holy people. Later in 27:9, he actually says, this day you have become a people to your Lord. And without anyone taking notice or being aware, there is a huge shift, as there is a change from what had been the Sinai Epiphany as having had that distinction. He then gives his list of blessings if they obey the laws, and his list of curses if they don't. And many of the curses are based on the Decalogue, but expanded to include some of the other laws Moses has given, and 2 stand out. He says in 27:18, cursed be one who misleads a blind person on the way, and all the people shall say, Amen. The reference to blindness is pervasive in this book. And this isn't just talking about the physically blind, for blindness also refers to those who don't see clearly. And the ones who may mislead the blind may be those in authority, who sometimes still may lie and deceive the people. The curse is on the transgressors, but the people have to be aware, and sometimes must be more questioning. And the final curse in Deuteronomy 27:26, cursed be one who will not uphold the words of this instruction to do them, and the people shall say, Amen. Friends, Most of the prohibitions are easy to agree to. They are uncommon and easy to avoid, and so the people would readily say amen to them. But the last is different. This final curse is on anyone who doesn't uphold the full Torah, the Torah as a whole. The people have been led to the point they must say amen to the whole thing. Don't forget the warning Moses gave at the end of Numbers when he said, be careful not to add to the words, meaning to be careful where the Torah stopped and interpretation began. He will end this parsha by saying, and you shall observe the words of this covenant and do them so that you'll understand all that you'll do. We have come full circle from Genesis. In the garden, the woman was attracted to the fruit of the tree of knowledge because it will bring about understanding. The ability is acquired by eating the forbidden fruit, the fruit that would make them like God. This is now only the second time that word is used in the Bible. The past, the future, the miracles, the covenant, all now within human power to grasp. Understanding what they experienced and what they will do. Friends, we are coming into the season of introspection and questions. In a few short weeks, the 10 days of soulful examination begin. And we have to examine and question our aspects of self. Do we have to wait till then? No. We should question all the time. And one of the questions is about this last section with the blessings and the curses. And is it really just Moses saying so? During the Middle Ages, with the advent and rise of Kabbalah, an interesting phenomenon took place. We saw the preponderance of writing being done under other, older names, such as the Book of Formation by Abraham. This gives credibility to its authorship. How much of Deuteronomy is like that? How much is ascribed to Moses but doesn't quite fit the other books? Is it later priestly writings which could assume the force of law if written by Moses and not by somebody else? It takes you back to the great question of Deuteronomy 18:1. How do you know? Friends, never stop asking yourself that. Don't blindly follow anyone or anything without using your judgment, your conscience, your morals, your ethics, your free will, and your boundless gift and ability to ask questions. Why do we never get an answer when we're knocking at the door with 1,000 million questions about hate and death and war? Because when we stop and look around us, there is nothing that we need in a world of persecution that is burning in its greed. Why do we never get an answer when we're knocking at the door? Because the truth is hard to swallow. That's what the war of love is for. Shabbat Shalom.